Thursday, June 21st, first day of summer. Dozens of students and adults marching down the sidewalk in downtown Manhattan holding signs that say, "We want swimming. Let us play," wearing black jerseys with the number 7, same as Colin Kaepernick, banging on buckets, blowing whistles, chanting.
They gather on the steps of Tweed Courthouse, the Department of Education headquarters, to announce a lawsuit.
There is no reason why in 2018, schools comprised of a majority of a specific demographic have access to as few as 3 or 4 sports teams, while schools of another demographic can have as many as 10, 12, or even 20.
Councilmember Antonio Reynoso from Brooklyn steps to the podium.
The DOE spends 17% more on sports for white and Asian students than it does on black and Latino students. This is objectively unfair, and we will not allow it to continue.
The group is called the Fair Play Coalition. They've been working with the New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, who earlier that morning filed a class action complaint against the NYC Department of Education, alleging that racial disparities in access to sports teams violates the New York City human rights law.
The lawyers claim that Black and Hispanic students, on average, go to high schools with 10 fewer sports teams than students of other ethnicities, and that an estimated 17,000 Black and Hispanic students go to high schools with no sports teams at all.
We're going to get to the lawsuit, but first, it's important to understand the years of work that led to it. On this episode, you're going to hear from students and advocates at the center of the fight for sports equity in New York City public high schools. I'm Terrence Freeman, a recent graduate of Fannie Lou Hamer Freedom High School in the Bronx.
I'm Taylor McGraw, editor of The Bell.
And I'm Sabrina Duquesne, a recent graduate of Brooklyn College Academy High School. And you're listening to Miseducation, a student-centered podcast about segregation and inequality in New York City high schools.
When we researched the issue of sports inequity in New York City schools, one name kept coming up over and over again: David Garcia Rosen. David recognized this problem as soon as he started working at the DOE.
20 years ago, when I wound up at my first school, Marie Curie High School, and I saw there was no sports teams there, it was surprising to me.
I'm sitting across from David in his office at the Bronx Academy of Letters, his current school. He has a solid athletic build, and I'm trying to understand how he's been at the DOE for 20 years because, in all honesty, he looks 30 years old.
I was a history teacher, and students would come to me because they knew I was into sports. Be like, oh, we want a basketball team, we want a soccer team, we want, football team, a track team, all these things. And I started to research a little bit, like, all right, well, let me find out how we get into the PSAL.
PSAL stands for Public School Athletic League. It's the body that oversees competitive sports across the DOE.
And so, I did a little research and found out that you have to apply for teams and ask for teams and started to do that. So, I started reaching out to the PSAL and couldn't get phone calls back.
David said he eventually spoke to someone who told him the way to get a team is to start with a club. The PSAL will come and observe, and then the next year they'll grant him a team. David started a girls' soccer club.
So I keep saying, hey, come check us out. We got this club going. We're playing soccer. Like, come. They never come. And then, towards the end of the spring, they send us this generic letter saying, sorry, thanks for applying, but at this time we can't give you a girls' soccer team. And that was my first time realizing, something's not right here.
David bounced around to a few more schools before landing a job at International Community High School in the Bronx in the fall of 2010.
There I was the dean for the first time. And part of the vision that I had sold to the principal was that the way we're going to transform the culture here is through restorative practices, part of which is sports. And the school is coming off of a huge gang brawl, essentially, in the lobby that kind of moved them to hire a dean. So now I'm once again applying for teams at the PSAL.
One thing you should know about David is that, yes, he loves sports. He's as competitive as they come, and he understands the power of sports as a motivator for academic and personal growth, not just athletic. But the PSAL was a roadblock.
So, all right, we applied for a basketball team, denied. Applied for a soccer team, denied. Applied for a baseball team, denied. Everything's denied.
David was eventually able to set up a phone call with the PSAL executive director, Donald Douglas.
honestly, it's like getting a phone call with the wizard. People were amazed that I got this guy on the phone to talk to me. And so I get him on the phone, and it's me and the baseball coach who's running a baseball club, right? We don't have a team. We can't get a team. They keep denying us. And we have a conversation with him. We're like, hey, we got all these kids that want to play baseball. Like, what's the deal? And we have all these kids that want to play soccer. What's the deal? And he basically said to us, small schools, we're just not set up for you guys. The PSAL is not set up for small schools. And that's really what they've been telling, people for years, for over a decade at that point.
This is the crux of the problem. In the late 90s and 2000s, the New York City high school system underwent a massive transformation. Many of the large, iconic high schools that served 2,000 or 3,000 students had graduation rates around 35%.
So Mayor Mike Bloomberg, with support from the Gates Foundation, divided the large, failing high schools into small schools that served closer to 400 students. Here's Bloomberg in 2013.
And today I'm happy to announce that this fall we'll build on those gains by opening another 78 new schools. Thank you.
The theory was that the smaller setting would foster greater relationships between teachers and students and give students more personalized instruction.
The new small schools have performed a lot better when it comes to graduation rates. The city average is now above 70%, up from about 50% a decade ago.
But smaller schools has also meant more limited resources for sports and extracurriculars, and fewer athletes to field multiple sports teams. And because most of the small schools are overwhelmingly Black and Hispanic,
those students are now less likely to have a full range of sports teams than students of other ethnicities, who are more likely to go to larger schools.
David's point is that the PSAL has not made an effort to adapt to this new landscape. That's actually not so new anymore, and David has never been the type to just wait around.
I shot out an email to all the principals in the Bronx, and I said, hey, the PSAL won't let us in, so anyone want to start our own league? And 8 principals responded, and we started a soccer league in the fall. Principals funded it. From my dean's desk, I fought with the parks department to get permits.
The small school athletic league ballooned to 47 high schools and over 100 teams.
Volleyball, softball, soccer, basketball.
Principals who banded together to grant their students with sports teams that the PSAL was not giving them, but it wasn't a permanent fix.
The problem is our league was funded by the principals. So if you're in the PSAL, that money comes from the DOE centrally. So you don't have to pay for your coach. It shouldn't be, do I have a principal who wants sports or I have a principal who doesn't want sports? We don't have schools where there's no math because the principal doesn't like math. Every school should have sports, and that is the experience of most white and Asian students in New York City. It is not the experience of most Black and Latino students in New York City.
That's when David invited his students at International Community High School to join the fight.
My name is Shafiu Asumanu. I currently attend Lehman College in the Bronx.
Shafiu was born in Togo, a West African nation which gained its independence from France in 1960.
Sometimes I don't really like to say, but it's one of the poorest countries in the world.
Shafiu told us he grew up playing soccer.
I was always the fastest person in the group, and they always call me Usain Bolt. So when I was coming to the US, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a life-changing experience, because when I come to the US, then I will have the opportunity to be part of the track team, and maybe, who knows, I can become the next Usain Bolt.
When he moved to the US in December of 2013, transitioning, as for many immigrant teens, proved to be a challenge.
Because I was a French-speaking student, was very hard, because I had to first make sure I very good at English.
He enrolled at International Community High School, one of more than a dozen high schools in New York City designed for students like Shafiu, who are recent immigrants. He met David and was disappointed to learn there was no track team. But
I was involved in the soccer team, and it was a great experience. I remember that year we won the championship, the small school athletic championship, I believe, because we were not part of the PSAL.
At the end of the 2014 school year, David and the Small School Athletic League won a big victory.
We accumulated a few thousand signatures on a petition to Chancellor Farina.
Chancellor Carmen Farina was head of the DOE from 2014 until April of this year.
And we decided to dramatically deliver them to her. And so at the education hearing at City Hall, Chancellor Farina sits down and, she's ready to testify. And we walked into the City Hall chambers and just began handing her these petitions saying, like, save the small school athletic league, fix this problem.
The city council approved $825,000 to support the league.
And so we're like, all right, victory, we're on our way here. And we hold a big press conference on the steps of City Hall. We're holding thank you, Mayor de Blasio signs. We're feeling like we've won something. Sadly, what then happened that summer was we couldn't get anyone from the DOE to talk to us about that money. How is it going to be spent? Like, we've been running this league for the past 2 years. Like, you obviously need to talk to us about this league because we have all the data, the coaches, the permits, but they wouldn't talk to us. And then one morning in September, the PSAL does a press release. We're so excited to announce the new Small Schools Athletic League. And they announced this new league that already existed.
Under the new structure, all the teams in the Small School Athletic League that David started had to reapply through the PSAL.
Everything we built, they immediately destroyed and created a rather complex mirage that, takes some time to kind of peel apart. But at the heart of it, the problem hasn't been fixed. The data shows that the problem's actually gotten worse since they took over the SSAL.
International Community High School lost its boys' baseball and soccer teams and was given a table tennis team instead. By this time, David had started his own research project to dig into the PSAL data.
I literally thought I was going to compare small schools to big schools. I was going to say, here's a big school, they have 40 teams. Here's a small school, they have 0 teams. There's your problem, Donald. Let's fix this. But when I started doing my very first Excel spreadsheet, because I had never done one, I started looking at the columns and I was like, these small schools all appear to be in certain neighborhoods. They also all appear to be in the Bronx. And so now, having spent my life in New York City, I was like, let me add some columns to this spreadsheet.
He saw drastic disparities in access to sports teams, not just by school size, but by race.
And I had my very first time, I learned how to take an Excel thing and turn it into a bar graph. I didn't really know how to do that. And it was a moment where I was like, holy shit, this is big.
When David realized that he was looking at a civil rights issue, he educated his students about the broader context and history of race in America.
So we try to use the Martin Luther King 6 steps of nonviolence, if I remember well, which is the first thing is to make sure we gather information.
Shafiu is describing Martin Luther King Jr.'s 6 steps of nonviolent social change, which David taught his students.
Second step, try to educate people. So we try to educate our schools, the teachers that were there. We went to Albany, I remember so many places that we went to and tried to educate people and telling them, okay, this issue is going on.
Shafiu and his peers demonstrated step 3, personal commitment.
10 students, including myself, we were really dedicated because we saw the injustice that was going on and we were really committed to the cause.
They attempted step 4, negotiation.
We tried to negotiate with city council members and tell them, okay, we need your help. This is going on. We don't want to go crazy right now.
But when it became clear that they weren't getting anywhere with policymakers, they turned to step 5, direct action.
So we started talking a lot with the students about the 1968 Olympics and Dr. John Carlos and Tommy Smith and what they did and how they tied sports and activism together.
During the 1968 Olympics, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, 2 black athletes who won the gold and bronze medals respectively in the 200-meter sprint, raised black gloved fists on the award podium to protest racial inequality in America.
The Black Power disciples Tommy Smith and John Carlos had been suspended by the United States Olympic Committee and given 48 hours to leave Mexico.
The students planned their own Black Fist protest for March of 2015 during an education budget hearing at City Hall.
To some people, the black gloves represent violence, according to them. For us, it doesn't represent it because we try to use Martin Luther King nonviolence.
David said that the then Chancellor Carmen Farina heard about the protest and instructed the school's principal to inform faculty and students that they would face consequences if they participated. The school's principal had been previously supportive of the student protest, but had to withdraw her support. She sent a letter to all students and families that read, Students who choose to go to City Hall are going on their own without permission or support from the principal to protest at the chancellor's budget hearing.
All the other schools that were planning on going, like everyone, like little dominoes, started backing out. And then the chancellor even offered to send PSAL representatives to our school the day that we were planning on protesting. She said, don't worry, I'm going to send people. We're going to fix this. I'm going to send people to your school. And the kids were amazing. And they called bullshit on it. They basically took the letters that the principal had given them. They crumpled them up. It was very dramatic. It was, cinematic. They're throwing all these letters all over the place, littering the whole room with hundreds of letters and saying, we're going. Like, she doesn't have to come here to the Bronx. We're going to her.
The students were fired up. By this point, they had organized under the name NYC Let 'em Play. They had a clear plan and were not turning back. But for David, the decision was more complicated.
It was clear that night that, if I went the next day, that there was a good chance that was going to be the end of my career with the DOE. But we had come so far and had identified a real issue, and it was a civil rights issue. I remember thinking that night, which, has been a guiding force in my life, is my whole family was in the concentration camps during World War II. And my grandmother, growing up in our house, would always tell me the story, like it starts with small stuff, right? It starts with they were throwing rocks at us and calling us Jews. She's like, you got to stop that. Like, you can't wait until it goes and goes and goes and goes. And this moment felt like that to me. It felt like if we're going to let them violate the civil rights around sports, like, what else are we allowing, right? And we know what we're allowing, right? We see all the violence with the police. We see that we have 2.3 million people incarcerated in our prison system. We see what our society in this country allows.
We're going to tell you what happened in a minute, but first, a quick halftime break to talk about why having sports in schools is so important.
I actually asked David that question. Here's what he said.
When we started our baseball program in International Community High School, there were kids that had already dropped out of high school. When they heard that we had a baseball team, these kids came back into my office and said, hey, I heard you started a baseball team now. We want to come back to the school. I said, okay, welcome back. Those kids graduated. One of the proudest moments of my career was standing on the stage with those 3 boys that had literally dropped out of high school. That is the power of sports.
David asked some of his students at International Community High School the question too.
When we were playing softball last year, we were very excited because our teacher asked us to, if we want to play softball, we have to come to class every day. Don't miss class. So we were in class every day, focus, and our grades go up.
It's helped us to come on time, be out the street. Do our work in school. Even in DI, we don't have the economy that we have here, but even over there, we play sport in our school. So why we are in the country that has a lot of resources and they don't give us. So we asking for money for we can play.
We're not basically asking for money. We're just asking for sports.
So Terrence, I know you don't play basketball anymore, but do you have any memories that stick out?
I got the ball. And when I shot, it went directly up into the air. It didn't go anywhere. But the point of it was that I got a little bit of bravery just to step out of my box and do something. So that's one thing that I really remember doing.
Sabrina, what about you? Any big sports highlights?
Yeah, so I actually have a memory for you guys. So I was at the Barclays Center. And my father, LeBron James, was in the crowd, and I went and I dunked the basketball straight into the hoop, and everybody went wild.
No, I think I saw that on SportsCenter now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I didn't know
crazy.
That was you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm just telling you, I didn't even know I had that strength, but...
Were you also in Space Jam?
Man, yeah, you already know. You already know with Michael Jordan, That's the uncle right there, so...
We're going to return to the story now. It's March 25th, 2015. City Hall. About 100 students dressed in black file into the chamber as the education budget hearing is getting started. They're wearing black gloves and carrying a banner that says Civil Rights Matter. David is right there beside them.
All the 10 leaders were all the way in the bottom. So once the hearing started, Chancellor Ferriño started talking. we stand up and we started talking, and the security came in, they kicked us out. They were even trying to arrest some of us.
Let's go to a completely segregated high school.
Let's go. Folks, if you do not leave the chambers, you will be arrested. Walk out of the chamber.
Your PSAL is separate and unequal.
After that, we all chant, civil rights matter.
Civil rights matter. Civil rights matter. Civil rights matter. Civil rights matter.
The students hold their fists in the air as they're being escorted out of the chambers.
We did that all day, from in the morning all the way to night.
The day after the protest, David was removed from the school and the students walked out with him.
And we walked straight to the train, and we went straight to City Hall and continued protesting.
David was sent to the Rubber Room, a temporary holding facility for teachers accused of misconduct who are awaiting an official hearing. While there, he was unsure of his future job opportunities. However, for David, time in the Rubber Room wasn't all that bad.
The hilarious thing about being in the Rubber Room is they basically turned me into a full-time organizer.
Once he was suspended, he reached out to us. He tell us, the movement is not over. We will continue this fight. And now he told us he has more time, so that allowed him to do more research.
I brought my laptop. I got a little internet thing because I didn't want to use their internet because I didn't want them following what I was doing all day. They must have thought I had a machine, I had a big staff of people at NYC Let 'Em Play, because I was just nonstop tweeting and Instagramming and Facebooking and calling people and organizing. And of course, I wanted to be in a school. I wanted to be with students. I wanted to be doing my job, right? So there's a sadness to it, because there was also times where I took a freaking nap because I was depressed. But it definitely helped the cause.
And every Wednesday, the City Hall protests continued.
I had to bring my car over to the dismissal, and I would meet them at dismissal, and we would get all the buckets and the signs and go on the train.
We started drumming.
Mayor de Blasio!
So one thing we do is we also, sometimes we go there, we play soccer, and we talk to council members, and we also talk to people on the street.
This is our first day that we're free. Actually come out here and support. So
Thank you for the support.
I asked Shafiu to reflect on his relationship with David.
For me, David is a white guy. That's how it's called. And as you know, our school is mostly Black and Latino students. So as a white guy, he has more privilege, compared to, being a person of color. And he tried to use that privilege to stand up for those who really don't have voice, like us, student of color. He was there for me. And not only him, also the rest of the student leader, they were there and they were like, you can do this, Shafiu, you can do this. And that's how, I end up, speaking in front of the chancellor and to many events that we went to.
It's been more than 3 years since David was removed and sent to the Rubber Room. When he got out after about 6 months, he had a hard time finding a new job.
I was blacklisted. No one would interview me. No one would talk to me.
That is, until he landed an interview with Principal Brandon Cardet Hernandez at the Bronx Academy of Letters, a small high school in the South Bronx.
I was just thanking him for interviewing me. No one would even interview me. I was just I was practically in tears that he was I literally was in tears. I was I was tearing up. I'm like, thank you so much for even thinking about bringing me here to your school.
He was hired as the Dean of Athletics and School Culture and has continued to fight the DOE on behalf of his students.
David has linked up with other advocates in a group called the Fair Play Coalition and has pushed for a solution to the issue of sports inequity in the New York City public school system.
The solution is this. It has to come centrally from the DOE. And so we take a map of the entire city, we look at where all the schools are, and literally it's as simple as drawing a circle around 5 schools and saying these 5 schools now compete as one PSAL program. This program has 35 teams, and all the kids from those 5 schools could play on these 35 teams. It's such a simple solution.
But for now, students continue to come into his office inquiring about new sports teams. One of those students is a 10th grader named Lisa Marks.
So I come to school and everything. The first thing I do, I'm looking for the coach. I want to sign up for track. How do I do that?
That's Lisa. She moved from Atlanta, where she was a competitive runner.
So they said I had to talk to David.
When I stepped out into the office and saw Lisa and her grandmother, the whole conversation out there was everyone was talking about track. Lisa's a track star.
I did the 100 meter. I did the 200, 300 hurdles, 4x1 relay, 4x4. Hurdles is what I was the best at. The girls would come up to me and ask me for help because I was like, wow, okay. And it was like, we look up to you. So I was like, it was like, wow, like they look up to me. So it was fun in Atlanta and everything.
Lisa's at a dilemma. She can stay at Bronx Letters, which she says she loves, or she can transfer to a high school with the track team.
It was like TAF is not a good school, but they do have track. I was like, well, I don't want to go to a school that's not good, but I want track. And I've been comfortable here and everything. The teachers are great. The people here are really nice and everything. It's fun. They celebrate like everything, and the assemblies are amazing. So it's just like feel like a big family.
It really is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking that here we have a student who loves our school, we love her, and then there's this decision to be made. Like, do I leave the school to go play on a sports team? No kid should have to make that decision. So.
And that brings us back to the lawsuit. Lisa, 3 other students from the Bronx, and the student-led coalition Integrate NYC are plaintiffs in the 37-page complaint.
The defendants, the New York City Department of Education, the Public School Athletic League, and its executive director, Donald Douglas.
The first line of the complaint reads, New York City is reckoning with deep racial injustice pervading its segregated public school system, where Black and Latino students experience far-reaching deprivations of key resources and opportunities.
If you want to read the full complaint, we have a link to it on this episode's page at bellvoices.com.
We reached out to the DOE lawyers and press office for comment, but did not hear back in time for this recording. We'll update you in our next episode if the defendants respond. One thing's for sure, David isn't waiting around. He's making the most of what he has at Bronx Letters to offer his students as many opportunities as possible, turning a trash room into a weight room.
This is another space that I'm super proud of because this was also a garbage dump. You can't imagine what the bureaucracy would be to turn a garbage dump into this. So, we went renegade and did it, which triggered an investigation. You can't make this shit up. And literally, mind you, I'm in here sweating my ass off because you can feel the heat in here. Now imagine with all the lockers and all the garbage and all the mice. I was in here after school, the whole first year I was here, just sorting, throwing shit out, it was disgusting. It was really, really disgusting.
Practicing baseball in the aisle of the auditorium.
This is the auditorium. That's a batting cage right there on the floor. So you see that blows up. We'll also literally do baseball practice in here. The custodians yell at us because some of these light things come crashing down, which they swear is going to kill someone one day.
And dreaming up capital improvement projects.
This whole blueprint is going to be a gym, so the parking lots will go underground, and then a gym will rise from here, and then the field will go on top, kind of like what they have at Yankee Stadium, the soccer field on top of the parking lot. The eternal optimist.
Because Lisa couldn't run track this year, she joined the stunt team.
I want to go to the Olympics. So track is something I have to do. But right now I'm doing stunt. I still want to stay active and everything. But it was new. I was like, wait, I got to lift a girl up? I don't know how I feel about that. She might be real heavy. What if I drop her? But, stunt is good. It's really fun.
As for Shafiu, he's studying government and politics so that one day he can make change from inside City Hall and not outside on the steps.
And I know it's gonna be hard because in politics is very complicated. I also learned that it's hard to get things done, but when you keep pushing and you keep pushing, it becomes easier for you to get things accomplished.
Sabrina and I just graduated, but if you're a current high school student and want to know more about the sports equity fight, you can go to fairplayforall.com.
We'll continue to follow this issue. Get in touch with us if you have something to add to the conversation. You can email miseducationpod@gmail.com. or message us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Miseducation Pod.
We want to thank the students and adults from Bronx Academy of Letters for inviting us into their school. Thanks to David, Lisa, and Shafiu for sharing their stories, and to you, the listeners. We've really enjoyed all of your comments and feedback so far this season.
This episode was reported and written by Terrence Freeman and Sabrina Duquesne. Music by our very own Alberto Lugo, aka DJ Synchro.
Finally, we also want to thank the reporters and editors from the Heckinger Report, a nonprofit outlet that covers inequality and innovation in education. They're partnering with us to take this podcast to the next level.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back soon.
I'm hoping if they hear my story,
yeah,
they'll speak up.